Alright. It's the first time I'm playing this game. I've been wanting to play this game for a while now, actually. I was shitting myself. What the fuck? Oh! Why does my thing have a baby pacifier? What? Movement emergency operate. I hear something over this way. Oh. Okay. What's this thing? Oh, that's the box. Oh, damn it. I just have to check my chat. How do I open this door? Oh, I have to go down. I'm just kissing the floor. Oh, I can't just take this off? What does it want me to do here? Oh, I should read the top right corner. Okay. Oh. So this sector is unfortunately still quite unfinished. As you can see, there used to be a mud raptor nest here, but we're not pretty sure it's all gone. I don't believe that. So I can see additional movement on the camera. Uh-oh. Uh-oh! The fuck? Oh hey, how is it floating, dude? You're here to get your papers to sign on a submarine? That's right. I have chubby cheeks. Oh, am I a woman? Oh, such enthusiasm. Dude. Maybe not a woman. I love it. Are you familiar with the courses we offer? No. Alright. You know, dude, just the thingamajig politician dude in his ivory tower trying to solve a problem without actually solving the problem, you know. What problem? The submarine business. It ain't all that. You feel me? Ain't many that returned from a trip. Ain't any that returned from the 10 trips. So there's a 100% discount on whatever passes as education here, because that'll solve things. Are you bashing your own program? I'm just the reception dude. Dude, ain't my job to get my meat for the grinder. Want my advice? Take a station job. Right back against the system, dude. I want to find adventure. Besides, there's no food here. Suit yourself, dude. We offer 5 courses here. First off, the captain. If you feel like delegating all the shitty tasks, this is for you. I recommend it. Like the famous Herman Pollard? Sure, dude. And there's the Fixin' duo. The engineer gets all the fancy toys, but with high risk of being shocked. Ain't for the weak-hearted. There's mechanic. If you don't mind getting wet, he's doing the welding and pump fixing kind of things. Ain't recommended for smokers. Feel me? Sounds like important jobs. Yeah, awful, right? And then there's the security officer. If you like shooting, the creepies, they're usually too in love with their power, though. I actually got this tattoo that says SOAB. Means all security officers are bastards. Watch out with those dudes, dude. They can't all be that bad. Finally, there's the medical doctor. Most of them are creepier than the actual creepies, but some actually make people better, man. There's some literal saints, feel me? Anyhow, if you still interested, move on to the next room. Sign me up, sir. What's this thing? 2 days since last malpractice lawsuit. What am I supposed to be doing? Captain trainee. I should have read that tooltip. I just completely ignored it. Yes, I'm going this way. Wait, what's this? Radioactive. I don't think I'm going the right way. Wait, this ladder. Is there, What was I supposed to be doing? I didn't read. Oh, that's my clothes. Oh. Now can I go in there? Why is Todd yellow? Oh. Oh! I'm stupid. Oh! Why did I just fall? Oh, I see. Those are rooms for these guys. Welcome, welcome. I'm Chief Engineer Frere, but please call me Tillage. Reactor room is where the heart of the submarine resides. As long as there's electrical juices flowing through the wires, there's life in the submarine, and the electricity all originates from this beauty right here. Got it. A nuclear reactor may sound scary because of the whole invisible radiation thing. There's actually nothing to worry about. Operating reactors is relatively safe. Relative to the other, way more dangerous. Dangers that is. The reactor room is usually quiet, quite well protected, and it's centrally located. One thing to keep in mind, and I will stress this, do not insert every fuel rod you have in your storage into the reactor all at once. Really, do not. Each fuel rod increases the amount of heat generated by the reactor. Too much heat means a fire will start. Eventually a full-blown meltdown will trigger, and kaboom. Well, at least it's a quick death. Sure beats getting captured by pirates. I don't think there's pirates. Are there pirates? For now, I'm just going to hand you one fuel rod. Let me show you how to insert it. Got one fuel rod. Okay. Starting up. What the fuck? One non-empty fuel rod inserted. Power button pressed. I'm not good. Sounds simple enough. Give it a try. Don't be shy. I already... Oh, okay. I thought I broke it. Getting confident, are we? Well, let's switch over to manual control then. In manual control, you're using two controls. The first one first one on the left is the fission rate, and the second one is the turbine output. Increasing the fission rate makes the reactor consume more fuel and generate more heat. The heat is used to spin the turbine, which generates electricity. Understood. The higher the turbine output, the more the reactor. I'm getting confusing myself. The higher the turbine output, the more the reactor attempts to generate electricity. If the output is too high relative to the fission rate, the reactor will cool down too low and it will overheat. Oh, I read that as a continuous sentence. That was my bad. So it will cool down, and if it's too low, then it will overheat. It all boils down to keep the left gauge in the green, keep the right gauge in the green. Okay. Great question. Ever been on a submarine and the light suddenly turned off? That probably meant the reactor was on automatic control and the captain did some sudden maneuvering. Auto is much slower to react and compensate for higher power. Needs manual control. And manual control is not bad. Wait, who's doing maneuvers? Okay, that's how fast it reacts. Good job. Now let's move on to the next room. But first, turn on the automatic control back. It's important not to leave the reactor on manual when it's unattended. Okay. Welcome to the electrical. Things are buzzing around here, aren't they? Don't be in trouble about all the wires. They're going exactly where they need to go. I made sure of it. Am I gonna have to make sure of that at some point? Rooms usually filled with junction boxes. All the power from the reactor needs to be distributed, and that's where the JBs or junction boxes. Oh, JBs, junction boxes. Okay. Come in. Understood. When junction boxes break down, which they will, any devices connected to them will cease to function. Your job is to keep that from happening. Why do they break? Can they, not break? Good question. Some skill-based engineers and outposts can make devices more damage resistant, but let's forget that for now. Yeah, no, the electricity will eventually melt away and stuff. Most captains are the rough, breakery kind of captains. They prefer to accelerate at maximum power for a few seconds and completely idle the submarine the next minute, or a cigar break. These power fluctuations are what damages the sub's electrical devices most of the time. Okay. Other thing is water, of course. Electricity and water don't mix so well, so anytime water leaks into the submarine, there will be damage. Pretty much, except once you learn how to fast repair, you'll have a lot of time for other things. Okay. Okay, what? I think. But look, this one light's still off. It's because I removed the wire connecting to the junction box to the lamp, but I have it right here. I just need you to connect. Okay. All you need is a screwdriver in one hand and the wire in the other. Let me show you. Pick the wire. Okay. do I put this? Oh, E. Okay. Awesome job. That covers all the basic characteristics in your ordinary troops. Lovely student. Okay. I should do the other roles. What the fuck? Oh, press any key, my bad. Shut up. I was the engineer. I'm gonna go with medic. Hello, doctor. You're here. I'm gonna get water. Decided to get milk instead. This milk makes you salivate more, so my mouth won't dry up as often. Just getting my blanket. You're here, great. My name is Dr. James Beam, and I'll be guiding your hand today. What's your name again? Oh, it doesn't matter. Let's go on with it. My head is absolutely throbbing. The med bay is where medical items and treatments are stored. Submarine has a medical fabricator usually situated here. Some med bays are also equipped with beds for patients to rest in. As space is limited in submarines, some vessels opt to do without a dedicated med bay. Ready to go, sir. Keep it down, will you? Grab some morphine for me. You can find it in that cabinet over there. That's a standard medical cabinet. You can find those on board most submarines. What if I just steal some opium as well? Just take all the drugs. Okay, bring it here. Just highlight me with your mouse and press H to enter my health interface. concussion. The patient is disoriented, forcing their eyes. That takes a headache, but this sector's still here. We don't have any enough, do we? We have to make some first and find morphine. First, find morphine and stabilizing. Stabilizing, okay. You can make medicine in the cabinet fabricator. For its material, feed it, dry it out. So if I gave it stabilizing, what am I trying to make? Noxaline. Naloxone, an opioid antagonist for treatment of opiate-based withdrawal and overdose. Oh, should I be? Okay. Wait, where'd my drugs go? Oh, I didn't grab it. She's next to her. Okay. There are several patients here, each with a different affliction. Find out what ails them and give them... I'll give you this. Health scanner HUD. We'll display what there is before you see it by yourself up close. When treating a patient, the health interface will suggest treatments on the bottom. What the fuck are you doing over there? I'm gonna watch what he's doing. He's just doing crunches. Why is his leg inverting? When treating a patient, the health interface will suggest treatments on the bottom. Simply clicking on the suggestion will apply it. But you can also manually drag a medicine to the wound. Cabinets should be stocked with whatever you need. Oh, that goes on my eyes. Oxygen level normal. Burns are commonly sustained from explosions and electrical shocks. Bandages and plasticine are the typical treatments. Burns are also limb specific, which means you'll have to apply the cure to the correct limb. Oh, you magically got a burn. Okay. So plasticine. This is for burns. Okay. Is usually inflicted. Psychosis is usually inflicted by otherworldly sources. It's treated with allopurinol. Got it. It's psychosis. I want to take more morphine. What? Why am I in the bed? Whoops. Just injected straight into the brain. Well done. There's one more thing you need to learn, and that's how to do CPR. When someone sustains enough damage, they enter a critical state. In this state, they are immobile and will perish if they don't receive immediate aid. Got it. Is this supposed to be a body over here? Their head is off. No, it's not. That's a bed. Press someone before they die. Open their health interface. Press the perform CPR button. If you are successful, the patient will be stabilized. Note that the resurrection process often takes time. Understood. Come back to the med bay. There is a patient and is taking up. Take your time, though. He's only pretend this time. What? Is it you? That looks like a guy that's just dead. Why am I doing CPR on their back? Your coffee is on me. Okay, I got the medical thing. I think the engineer or mechanic is the same as the guy that works in the reactor, but I'll try it out. Oh, fuck. I did... Yeah, I did the engineer already. I am Amos. I'm the medical... No, it's not. Okay. Well, that's for report a bug button. I'm a most mechanic around here. I'll teach you how to care for your submarine. Remember, if you take care of her, she'll take care of you. I'm sure that's true. Just right here is the engine room. It houses the engine. Every submarine has one. The engine moves the submarine forwards and backwards. Got it. The engine is a mechanical device. You will be a mechanic. You take care of mechanical devices. Thing is making funny sounds or smoking. You take a wrench to fix it. Here's a wrench. Now go fix it. Fixing. What the fuck? That wasn't terrible anyways. Ceiling is leaking, which is probably what caused the damage in the first place. You know how to handle a welding tool? I do. Oh. I was gonna try and zap him with it. It's the cabinet. I can't kill him. Okay. Diving mask. Down this ladder, the badge is a ballast tank. The ballast tank fills up with water when the submarine needs to go down. Inside, a pump forces the water in or out. If the pump breaks down there, you get in there and fix it. Since there's usually water in the ballast tank, it helps to have some diving tools on you. You still have that wrench? Yep. What? Why do I have a laceration? It sounds like there's demons. Not bad, code. Follow me. We'll do some fabricating next. The engineering room is where you can find the fabrication and destruction devices. Not all submarines have them, but most outpost stations do. You can use them for free. Fabricating new items with the fabricator is easy. Put in some basic ingredients, select blueprint or recipe, press the button, and you got yourself some brand new toys. Deconstruction is even easier. You put in some item, plant, or mineral, and you get a basic material back. Do note that you lose some materials in the process. How about you make your own wrench? There's iron ore in the cabinet. You'll either find it in the deconstructor first. This cabinet? Nope. This one? Nope. Right, the cabinet. This is the deconstructor. You can keep that one if you want. Anyways, I'm almost done. Last room, and I'm making a weapon. What the fuck happened down here? This is the oxygen generator compartment, typically quite small, but also rather important as they keep people breathing. Be sure to check up on it and repair it. If you got time to spare, use it to fill up depleted oxygen tanks. How about you put your oxygen tank in there and call it a day 8? Put this oxygen tank. Were we running on no oxygen? The drug cup, emit it through. Keep your tools sorted. Your workplace tidy. Let's have that beer now. What is this? Okay. I've done the engineer, mechanic, medic. I haven't done security. Or captain. Yes. On my way. Whoops. Officer Perez. Stand with your back straight, recruit. I'll teach you to shoot, stab, and sink your enemies. My name is Officer Perez, but you might as well forget it now since you'll address me as ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Welcome to the armory. Every crew needs an armory to store their weapons, preferably one that's secured by a locked door to prevent the munitions from falling into the wrong hands. Armories are often situated near the command room and or the gunnery compartment. In lieu of armories, secure cabinets, and sometimes used to store handheld weaponry. Being such a quick learner, you might last longer than most. First of all, equip yourself with body armor. You can find some in the cabinet. Just follow the stink of sweat. Just gonna take those. Good. I think I was good. I think it was Recruit Miller who died in that armor. A bright young man, but the worst aim you ever saw. Now get the gun and ammo from that rack. Make sure it's loaded by hovering over your mouse over it. No, this rack. Management wants me to remind you about trigger discipline at this point. Now that that's done, let's get to shooting. We're fresh out of clowns, so you'll have to make do with the husk. Proceed to a shooting range. Enemies that manage to board your submarine are usually weak enough to be dispatched with handheld weapons. Husks can infect humans with a deadly parasite, but this one is safely maintained in the range. Kill it. Can I crouch? Bang. Nice shooting. Nice shooting. You beat Miller's record. Now let's find something bigger to shoot. The coil gun loader. Can I shoot her? Come here, bitch. Yeah. Well, I can shoot her, but this is where gunnery. This here's the gunnery. From here, you'll be able to control various weapons situated on the hull of your submarine. Got it. Submarine weaponry consists of several devices, along with the turret itself. You'll find a loader, a supercapacitor, and precision scope. A loader should have ammunition compatible with the weapon it's linked up to. Load some coil gun ammunition into this one. Okay. Coil gun ammo. Supercapacitors provide power to the weapons. Turn this one on by cranking the dial. The higher it is, faster weapon charge. Just be careful on red. It starts to overload. Precision scopes are used to control turrets while interacting with the periscope. Use your mouse to aim, left mouse to shoot. Now, see if you can find something. Or can't find something to shoot at. Uh-oh, I put a hole in the ship. Isn't that what ate me earlier? Now you can sleep better at unlike recruit Miller. Yep, I put a hole in the ship. Okay, note to self, you can in fact put a hole in your own ship with a gun on the ship. Okay, now it's time for the captain. This is the last tutorial. On my way. Okay, so it's just straight ahead. I'm Captain Stern, and I'll be your instructor today. I will start with a brief explanation of what it means to be a captain, followed by a practical course. It is crucial to enforce a chain of command, so you will address me as captain. Say yes, captain, if you understand. Yes, captain. The command room is the brains of the submarine. From here, signals are passed either verbally or electronically to crew and devices. This is devices like the navigation terminal and status monitor. The captain can pass all these signals. For example, order the crew to fix devices signals. Signal to the engine to move at full power or empty the ballast tanks to raise the submarine. The core function of the navigation terminal is to move the submarine. What's this chair, though? Oh. I shouldn't be touching that. Since we're in a low light environment, sonar is the most efficient way of identifying terrain objects and forms. Sonar. What's passive sonar? Why does it echo at the surface? Sonar is short for sound navigation and ranging. Sonar has two modes, passive and active. My body just shivered. On passive mode, the sonar only listens to sounds. It will stay silent. It will still detect things, especially if those things make a lot of sound. Static objects or terrain, however, won't be detected until very close. So will it detect that? No. While in active mode, sonar emits pulses of sound at an interval. Simply put, this means every few seconds a sound wave will reveal terrain, objects, and life forms. Active sonar is essential for avoiding bumping into terrain while moving at any decent speed. Finally, there's the directional ping. While active sonar is great for spotting things, also great for being spotted. Their directional ping limits the directions of the sound pulses, thus preventing hostiles from spotting your submarine as long as it's not aimed at them. We've hooked up this navigation terminal to a sonar. Feel free to try it out. I feel like something's gonna find us through me using this. Does that only send out the sonar range to a certain distance if I zoom in and out? I don't think it does. Oh, I could change the ping direction. I didn't even notice that. Once you've prepared insurance, can I turn off the pinging? Time to move the submarine. Steering is controlled the display in the middle, which utilizes modern touchscreen and autopilot technologies. By default, the autopilot will try to maintain the submarine's position by clicking the screen. The autopilot target position will change to the indicated position. Furthermore, the autopilot has information on outpost locations. It attempts to automatically navigate to predefined positions. The system, however, is neither infallible nor as quick as manual steering. What does infallible mean? Infallible. Speaking of manual steering, this is the preferred option for those who want more control over their submarine. By touching and clicking the screen, you set the submarine's target velocity. For example, if you want your submarine to move slowly to the right, you touch slightly to the right of the submarine's current position. If you want to rise up quickly, you touch far above the submarine's current position. Yes. Trick question. No, you're not, cadet. A submarine is usually docked while idle to prevent it from drifting and using fuel. First, you'll need to undock using a big red undock button. Easy, right? Now let's try it out. Undock. What's this button do? Wait, is this a mini sub? I did it. Back in the ready to helmsman now. but being captain is more than that. You can't run a large submarine by yourself. You need a crew. And the crew needs them. I stumble around like headless chickens. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Wait, they wouldn't be. They're headless. As a captain, you're responsible for leading your crew, so you'll have to issue orders to them, meaning you'll need to know what's needs doing. That's where the status monitor comes in. With the status monitor, you can see where the submarine is in need of repairs. You can then mark these rooms with tasks and pray there's someone competent enough to perform them. Don't skip the praying part. Okay. If you don't want shit to break down in the first place, though, you'll have to tell your crew to keep it all in good order. This means issuing them orders from the get-go. Let's try it out on an actual submarine, shall we? The other cadets ought to be ready right now. But right about now. Follow me. Yes, Captain. Okay. I broke my knee. Okay. I am fine. Where the fuck did he go? We're here. Let's start by issuing commands to the crew. Without power, there's nothing the submarine can do. Okay. Middle mouse. Operate. Reactor. Power up. Great. Remember, captains should command respect and obedience. That's why they usually carry. That's why they use carry firearms. Last engineer Stevie Dolte said, "What are you doing? Going to shoot me?" His cousin didn't stick around long after that. Anyways, let's order some maintenance, shall we? Order 6 leaks. I ordered leaks to be fixed. Oh, there we go. For electrical devices to be prepared. Mechanical. Assume mechanical. And no, you won't be given a firearm yet. You'll have to complete your education first. Let's go on with that, shall we? Honk Mother knows. Who the fuck is Honk Mother? You'll need it. Speaking of firearms, it's time to get the sub's weapons operational. Yes, Captain. That covers basic supercharger, net charging, supermaster net charging at 50%. That was the basics. Now, real test. Undock from the station. This is Cap. What if I just crash the ship? Oh, this is the HUD. Am I supposed to arrive there? Why does passive sonar pick up on something? What the fuck is autopilot doing sending me up here? Autopilot just straight up tried to send me right into a wall. I did it. Oh my god! I need to go to the washroom. Back. Okay, I'm gonna try the campaign. Looks like it might have been. I've already done the tutorials. Map seed. Save. Discover the caverns. What? Why did I get an achievement? In the early 21st century, it was discovered that under the icy irradiated surface of Jupiter's moon, Europa, lies a vast sea sustaining microbial life. Following discovery, it didn't take long for the first manned space flight to arrive on Europa. Verify the sea did not only host microbial life, but complex, hostile, subaquatic fauna. Besides the wildlife, the researchers faced grueling difficulties posed by the dangerous radiation emitted from Jupiter and the intense cold and tremendous pressure of the Europa Ocean. Despite all their hardships, Earth-born colonialists were able to construct a handful of habitable outposts where a new way of life developed over many decades. A new system of governance was formed by a coalition of the largest, most influential cities on the moon. Over the years, European society became more and more disassociated from Earth. 50 years ago, contact was lost entirely. No more supply ships have ever arrived since. Strange. Subaquatic travel and vehicles are a key role in this new society, scouting for new inhabitable locations, protecting citizens from creature attacks, establishing supply lines between stations as humanity ventures even deeper to evade the lethal radiation from Jupiter above. The life of the crew member aboard one of these submarines is lucrative one, albeit dangerous and often short. You've decided to rise to the challenge and establish a crew of your own. Now with your newly bought Barsucker docked at barotrauma, the waters of Europe open up for you. Explore, help expand colonies, and make of this place what you will. This can only go poorly. Fritz, were you finally a chance to get out of the station? Can you believe there's so many people willing to crew a submarine? They just sponsored us one fresh in the shipyard. None as far as I can see. Supply and demand in action. They need able-bodied sailors to keep European society running. And the original crew of the submarine drank themselves to death before their maiden voyage. It's over. It's ours, all right. If you say so. It still seems fishy, but sure beats sitting around here. What do we still have to do before we go? Have a pipe. A tobacco pipe. Oh god. I'm gonna get addicted to it, aren't I? We'll need some supplies for our first voyage. Fuel rods are a must. Without them, I cannot keep our submarine powered. We should make sure we have some spare welding fuel too, as without it, we have no way to patch hull damage. Of course, let's try to avoid hull damage. But just in case, transfer my last savings to the shared bank account to contribute. Great. Maybe while you're up there, you could check if anyone has some paid work for us. There's not much point of drifting around without a purpose. Keeping a submarine running is expensive. Alright, so... Oh, MK is the currency. I thought it was like Mark. It's like a Mark 3000. Some basic construction materials that catering outposts, but delivery is on us. A simple transport job per say. Mission mine outpost material transport. Where's the materials? What's my balance? Oh, we already own... Oh, they own 8. No. No, yeah, no, we own 8. Purchase. Delivered. Supplies will be delivered to your submarine when you leave it. Okay. Oh. Oh, where am I? I think I just opened the hatch to the outside. I'm a fucking idiot. I just opened the hatch to... marks. Okay. Children of the Honk Mother. The Honk Mother shows an unrecognized lot. The church. Oh, I want a decent. A religious group that seeks communion with the highest parasite in order to usher in the new kind of humanity. It was fighting these harsh environments. I don't interest in that. Operate reactor, turn on the reactor. I've developed a blunt force trauma. Can I rest? I can lie on the ground. Okay. Oh, does passive sonar just pick up on, what the fuck? What are those? What is that? I'm afraid. What did that say? Did that yell at me because my sonar was off? Oh, Ice Spire. Can I look up the front of the ship? What's this? Why do I have sulfuric acid? What do we think is at the center? Center of what? Are those the Ice Spires? Yeah, this is going pretty smooth. Okay, I feel like I should go to manual steering and slow this fucker down because it's damn autopilot. Come on, go this way. Looks like I might hit the fucking thing. Come on. Doc, let's go! Complete a round as captain. Complete a round without any casualties or damage. Was there supposed to be casualties? Did I deliver the ship? Oh, let's do this door. Oceanic Club. Oh, where'd the music go? Oh, then. Oh! Oh yeah, I'm dancing. How do I get down there? What's the person that's down there? Is it not through the club? Outpost manager. I just coughed into the mic. Where's the man? Who do I talk to to restock supplies? Does the restock supplies fall under the fuel rods, bow, and ammo? Revolver rounds? What the fuck? Can I buy a hunk? 30 children with hunk reputation required. Oh. Hunk mothering. Can I talk to the honk people? I don't think I can. Why is there a ladder here if I can't go anywhere on? Oh, I was just... I'm dumb. I had a crew to train with them, but they never showed up. Okay. Biohazard. Where do I go to shop? Wait, why can I buy this from you, but can't... Depth charge shell. Accordion, I want that. Where is it? Oh. There we go. I don't know, why did I buy this? Where's... Senor Butt. There's especially a meatless turn kids nearby. Where's this guy? HR manager. I've already exploded. Oh. Did I break a leg? Oh, there's this person here. Can I dismount the stairs? Oh yeah. I'm spending money on bullshit. Oh, is this guy a submarine merchant? Does he sell stuff for subs? Or is he just out? No, he doesn't. This guy sell... Oh, he does sell fuel rods, I'm just blind. We didn't use any, so I guess we... Reactor generates slightly more heat, but lasts longer than uranium fuel rods. I'm gonna assume this is a uranium. That bar of uranium. Where do I buy ammo? Do the clowns sell? No, they don't. I just remembered. Oh, this goes higher. How much money do we have? Where do I see our marks? Okay. Is this down to my ship, or is this... That's down to that other ship, isn't it? Or to my ship, isn't it? Who the fu- Oh, wait. Do you sell... bullets? Coil gun. Revolver shells, okay. But I bought the fuel rods, right? Do you also sell fuel rods, sir? Or do I have to find somebody else that sells fuel rods? Ow. Ow, what? I got shock damage from that? The door just assault. I'm gonna claim a big settlement on these fuckers. They're assaulting me with a door. You sell... Oh, I never purchased them. I'm an idiot. Whatever, things got Get riskier the further down we go. Money better though. No risk, no reward. We need to go deeper. Sign me up, Captain. Go into the ship. Whee! Select mission and leave. Kill a large crawler. There's an inactive beacon station in this patch. We're getting to it back on land, make it easier for human habitation spread in nearby locations. Where are my missions at? Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. This goes deep. Mission biohazard is over here. Oh, right, I should be clicking on them. Why does this give me reward? Oh, the husk people. Difficulty 1%. Difficulty. Yeah, I'll go here first. Well, I want this mission. I kind of want to picture the Church of the Husk. Shipment of husk parasite eggs to be at vast habitation outpost. I don't care about my infliction that I've inflicted upon myself. What are you doing, autopilot? Sir? Okay, autopilot's being dumb. Go this way. Oh, that's... Oh, autopilot maintain position. What is the... I almost pulled my headset plug out. This. What the fuck? What happened? Why can't I hear anything anymore? What the fuck? I can't hear anything anymore. Okay, so it's still picking up. Okay, what the fuck? Okay, now I can hear it. That was weird. Why did it open a menu? Oh, fucking hell, he's on that shit. What are you doing down here? I should go to the captain. What is chasing us? Man, guns. Holy fuck. Oh, it's dead. Okay, well, that problem dealt with. Problem solved. I wonder what it looked like. What are you doing in my office? Go fix some shit. Go fix some shit while I smoke a crack pipe. What the? What is that? What is happening to the ship? What is on the ship? Is it tentacle hentai on the ship? What the fuck is happening? Makes leaks. Okay. Okay, we made it to the... Slow down. Slow the fuck down. Slow the fuck down. Come on, go this way. Oh, he's fixing my... Okay. Too bad I wasn't on the guns to see what was going on. I should probably explore this ship so I know how to get to the guns fast so I can look at what's attacking the ship. Boom. Oh, why do the children of the honk don't like this? ×4. Why do I bet ×4 multiplier? Is that the 4 enemies I killed? This isn't my ship. I'm not in my ship right now. Where's my ship? Is this my ship? Nope, that's... Yes, this is my ship. Okay. Where's the engine bay? We have 6 fuel rods. What's in the engine? Okay. Nope, don't want that. This is the, depth charge. A decoy that can be deployed via depth charge launcher will sink while producing a loud acoustic signal to attract attention away from the sub. Oh. How much are those? I assume... What does this button do? Does that launch the depth charge? I assume it does. I'm not gonna press it. I'm gonna do something irresponsible. I'm gonna buy a bunch of beer. No, I'm not. Maybe. Can I get more crew? You almost run into someone wearing captain's uniform. You can tell by their appearance that they're visitor. There's no time to play them. I see him that map. I straight to the out of the shithole. What? Can I shoot him? I assume I can, so I'm not gonna try because this isn't the tutorial anymore. I'm not gonna buy a new submarine. What do you do? Steel bar. What's my current debt? Oh, I need to bring him 2 steel bars. Turret hard point. What? Oh, so I can install guns there. Upgrades none. Slot 3. Slot. Pulse laser. Turret hard point. What's a turret hard point? Does that mean I can install turrets? Okay. Where's the HR manager? I want to talk to her. That's not... Can I steal this? Oh, if I take that, I'm gonna be in trouble. Okay. Yeah, I don't need... Trait fearful. How much are you? 2,000? Jesus. Assistant. Broken English. Rude, fearful. A fearful security officer, that's not a good trait to have. In fact, that's a fucking stupid trait. I think my stream cut itself into bits because it's showing that my stream is going to run for like 4, or that Twitch, that dock is broken. That's not what I want. Yes, shut up, Obus. Twitch stats. Yeah, no, it wasn't updated, that's why. Been going... Is chat frozen? Well, it's not anymore, it's been going for... Okay, so it hasn't been broken. Oh, there's people I can talk to from our missions. These people cultists. Cultist merchant. Broad spectrum antibiotics. Anabolic steroids. Yo. I can give myself cultist ropes. Dark garment or my church of the house can meet with pheromones to pacify feral husks, helping the acolytes stay safe until they're ready to ascend. 50. Dark embedded with genetic technology and hormone injectors, they give the wearer enhanced regenerative capabilities of their symbiote. What? Dude, I want to get better with the cultists. Oh, right, I was buying something off you. Can I have more quests from the cultists? Looking for work? We got some, let's say, research materials that are sorely needed in neighboring outposts. Get them there. The question asked, we'll pay you. Fuck yeah. I wanna help the cultists. They have cool shit. I wanna join a cult. Let's fucking go. Cult time. Where's this mission at? No, oh, the mission got cut off. Sure. Oh, okay. Back there. Back that way. Guess I'm going back and forth through this place. Is the engine powered on? Oh, it's already on. The church is offering marks for delivering the shipment of parasite. Okay. Undock. And it was this boost. Has my affliction been getting worse? No. What are you doing, autopilot? No! Why are you holding position? Stop it. This fucking autopilot, man. some crack. First set autopilot shows our monitor. The side view of the sonar returns from here. Click sonar view. Oh, that's neat. I can locate where items are. Any demons about? No. There's a demon up above. Is the demon down? What? Who hasn't been putting fucking charges in the... Who did this? Who the fuck did this? What the fuck's the engine room? Okay, the power's back on. The fuck? The fuck, man? What is happening? Oh, we're drifting away. Come on, move to the left. There we go. What's our relationship with them? Plus five, neutral. Okay. We have 5,000 marks. laid back. We don't have anybody. Do we have anybody who's good at medical? 16 medical, 16 medical. We don't. I don't think we need one though. Marcel Tootle. He's pretty good at medical. I don't think we need anybody. Why did I come up here? Buttons. Can we grow plants? Can I add a window on my ship? I want to be able to see outside. Is there nobody on this ship with missions? Oh yeah. I want to kill a beast. Let's fucking do that shit. Oh, that's why I couldn't see the mission, because I was going in the wrong direction. Oh, okay. I should have activated the sonar. I could have just ran the sub into the fucking... operate the laser. God! Fucking damn it. Who's... Can I get somebody to operate the fucking engine? Oh. Are those bubbles? Or is that a group of crawlers? Oh, boom, bitch. This power better not fucking go out. Can I get somebody to maintain the fucking engine? Let me look at the guns. You're not looking the right direction, sir. If I turned on just general sonar. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Oh, we did it. What the fuck are you firing at? Bellows outpost. Let's go. Fuck yeah! I murdered some bitches. Man, I can barely hear myself playing that over that. Do these guys just sink? I think their bodies just sink slowly. I need to Yeah, you go check on the fucking engine, you motherfucker. Goddamn fucking bastard. Is he actually maintaining the engine manually? I think he is. So maybe I should buy another crew member to manually. I forgot what I was saying. If I even was saying anything. Just started focusing. Let's go. Come on. Let's fucking go. Oh right, I forgot to enable the fucking notifications. Twitch alerts. Fuck. My bad. How much money do we have? There's no way we only have that much after we earned like 1,500. Do I need to go claim it for something? Oh wait, no. I bought a ship upgrade. I just remembered. That's not bad. I need a second engineer. Second engineer to operate the engines. Ow. Ow. How many fuel rods do we have? That's not the fuel rods. That's my bullets. What's that? Why is Jovian? Why not? Jupiterian? What the hell is Jove? Oh, is that what Jupiter people are called? Jovian? Loader base. Loader base. Loader base. Oh, okay, we have a lot of ammo. Alright, take care. What's this? Our current radio channel has preset. Oh. New hire. My ear fucking hurts. God damn it. Okay, somebody man powers. And somebody go on this gun. That's his only job. Why every time? Do I just need to wait? I just... Okay, I assume... Where are these guys? Oh, we're transporting people. That sounded bad. We're transporting people. Hear what? What are they talking about? Some deep groaning sound from the outside. What? Are you having gas again? What's above? Now go straight up. Fuck is that? Oh. Oh, that's background. Oh, okay. What? What just slapped? It's... I swear somebody just injected me with drugs and I'm not happy. Don't sink away. Complete an escort mission. Complete a round as an electric... I was playing as an electrical engineer? Oh yeah. With 3,000. Why am I an engineer? Dear listener, if I was a Colossian person, I would walk right into the... Oh, okay, so this is a political guy. Reporter sit up my little podium and say, listen, citizens, if you vote against military spending and separatist army marches in and blows you up, we're not going to do anything about it. You want to cry about your own little station? Give us your money next time. Anyway, that's what say if I was the president. That's all we have to remember. Listen to a bit. Maurice from Madagascar. Wait, is that his name, or is it Mort? I know Mort is one. Some weird farmer who's built a makeshift radio station somewhere. Nobody knows where. Otherwise somebody would have put a stop to it already. Yeah, the guy gets on everybody's nerve. Oh. fingers are huddled around them, lying on the floor. Not sure if they're trying to restrain or see the person. Some kind of seizure. Hey, you, throw me that syringe from the cabinet. Custom syringe says as soon as they inject it, spasm neck settles down. One of the rogue figures seems angry. Mark, you impatient idiot. Mark, you impatient idiot. How many times have we told you you're not ready for the gift yet? What's going on here? Well, they inject him with eggs? Rogue character turns to you and looks at you, getting a better look at their faces. They seem very young. We just had a little medical emergency, of sorts. A friend thought it would be fun to go on a little trip, if you know what I mean. Thanks for the help. We don't mind, but keep this between us. This feels off. Easy, dear brothers. I just want to know. Why do you want to stop this man's strength? Their stern expressions ease up. Jelly away a spasm, didn't you? That's not what an ascension looks like. The symbiote was about to consume him, to take him over. He's clearly not ready to be one with the symbiote yet. If I was interested in becoming one of those symbiotes, how would I push? Not this. To be honest, we're just fresh converts. I don't know if we're the best people to answer that, artist. So you need to be ready for a gift, to truly open your heart, mind, and all hearts of flesh before you could take communion. There's these rituals and tools for appeasing and welcoming the holy symbiote and bringing about the metamorphosis, but we don't really know much about those yet. I'm sure an ecclesiast would happily tell you more about it, if you can find one. Wish the charming young fellow farewell and a pleasant time in the ascension. Oh, I gained more. Yep. What do you sell? Can we coat our ship with this pheromone shit that keeps the things passive? Handheld sonar? What is this? Portals are handy for exploration. I'm gonna buy this. What, I had an opioid addiction? Since when? When did I have an opioid addiction? The fuck? I don't remember taking opioids. Oh, it was probably tobacco. I'm an idiot. Personnel transport. Where can I go to? I need more tobacco for my pipe. I'm gonna assume the opioid was tobacco. Where do I need to transport this stuff? Oh, here. Okay, I think I'm gonna go cold caverns. Cold caverns. These are all cold caverns. I'm gonna go this way and then this way. Oh. Going deeper into hell. 1240. Jesus. Okay. So, lesson learned. Let the engine power up first. Get someone on the engine. Why are you? I'm not gonna question it. Okay, I'm gonna assume the engines are fine now. Come on now, move. More fuel into the reactor. Good job. What am I saying to the AI? I just realized it's 1,000 fucking meters. Time to do drugs. Did the power better not just fucking up. Oh, I can see the guns moving. Oh, what? Where's your firearm? What are they firing on? Okay, we have a fucker in the bottom of the ship. Don't tell me I'm gonna have to swim out there and shoot it in the face. Okay. I'm going out there. With my gun. Oh shit. Oh, did he kill it? Oh, no, that's the wrong way. What the fuck? Oh, that's a docking hatch, my bad. What the fuck are you doing here? Give me your blood. Oh, okay, I see. It swam up there. What's with this? Oh, that's a storage room. I'm taking this with me. Can I swim faster? Yeah, I'm taking this thing with me. Ever seen this? What is in this? Oh, anabolic. Oh yeah, I forgot it. Fix the electrical systems. Well, I stole some alien blood. I wonder if I could sell it. Can I sell this? Do a blood substitute for the treatment of blood loss. Oh. Do we have... Nope, that's the ballast. Oh, here's the guns. I should have had a fucking diving knife on me. Time to go. Uh-oh, I made a mistake. Yes, treat me. I'm being treated. Because I did something fucking stupid. There's nothing you can do? What, shouldn't I use the bandages on myself? Oh, I'm not bleeding anymore. Uh-oh, I have a feeling there's a demon down there that wants to fight. Or it's... no, it's dead, okay. Oh my god. I just remembered what mission we're doing. We're transporting people. I thought we were doing something for the husk people. Come on. There we go. Oh, these guys commit terrorism. I should be on their good side, not on their bad side. Oh, this place is nice. Hello, fellow traveler. A pale figure greets you. You're slightly taken aback by their cheerfulness. Would you happen to have any eggs of species mechanics? I'll pay good money for each egg. Crossing travels. Their facade momentarily slips, and you can hear them muttering under their breath. You can make out disgusting meat sack and something about ascending. Yeah, fresh out of bus cakes. I don't have any eggs, milk. Sorry, don't have any. Maybe I should... Where can I find husks? What the fuck is this? Oh, my leg is fucking mangled. Adrenaline. Any large amount. I don't think I have a deconstruction. Aquatic poppy. Swarms to the touch can be processed into opium. Oh, aquatic. Oh, yeah, poppies are full of opium, aren't they? Well, not full, but. You get what I mean. Depth decoy shell. Decoy that can be deployed via depth charge. Slink while we're shooting a loud acoustic. Depth charge. Sink and then explode. Oh. Well, those are expensive. I shouldn't be using those willy-nilly. I can't grow plants. Oh, that's a railing. I just jumped off a fucking balcony. Oh, do you have more quests? Wait, what was that? Killing hemorrhage? Go buy more medical supplies. God, fuck. I'm a fucking klutzy bitch. Medical clinic. There we go. Oh, my earbuds are dying. 2 and 1. Oh, that's probably not good. What's my husk neutral? Okay. I have talent points. Now we move. At the center. At the center of the eye? Maybe it's all the sunken subs the abyss has swallowed in the past century or so. That would explain why the gravity is stronger than it should be around here. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in a while. Uh-oh. Oh, fucking hell. Whoa, we're sinking. We're sinking. We're sinking. Oh, fix the damn nukes. go to the... Maintain the position. I need a harpoon gun. Why are we rising so fucking rapidly? Where the fuck's all the suits? Oh my god, you're all fucking turds. Oh, you just carry it. Okay, I have the harpoon gun. Where's my mouse? Fuck you. Fucking bitch. Can I collect those? Oh, I can swim faster. Why do you have a suit? Take off the fucking suit, you fucking moron. The fuck is wrong with you? Oh, I'm gonna kill somebody. fucking, fuck. Yeah, go put that away. Fucking son of a bitch. Jesus Christ. Am I still bleeding? What the fuck is wrong with these medical people, dude? Can't even fix the damn bleeding, man. Wait, is a creature stuck on the hull? Oh, it must have just got stuck, or got unstuck. I'm gonna go get a snack. I'm back. Already, I'm piling the fucking ship. But why are we shaking? Oh, what is that up there? Is that a... Uh-oh. It's at the fucking door. Oh! What the fuck? What the fuck? Where's my knife? Stab this fucking bitch. Nope, you're not coming up there. What? Let me go up. Get off my ass. Are we sinking? What's happening? Okay, I'm gonna assume... Yep, demon is still up there. Fuck you, demon. Hey, it fell in the fucking ballast. We need to get back.
Efficient power. Who the fuck's not running the generator? Autopilot's just hovering around here. I'm gonna go manual control. What? How are we heading further away from it? That's what I thought. Fucking GPS. We should have a demon fucking tailing us. Uh-oh, we're gonna crash. Slow the fuck down. Oh my god. Made 2,000 marks though. What? Why am I throwing up? Where's the doctor? I threw up all over their fucking wall. Help me. I have 6,000 marks. Doctor, help. Okay. I think I need a new ship, because this ship doesn't have anything to break down these materials and make stuff. A young man walks up to you with a bottle of liquor in hand. Despite appearance, he speaks to you in a peppy tune. Hey, the name's Ari the Little. You came here on a ship. You should take... Why should I do that? Because I'd be a great employee. I would work for you. I feel like I will regret this decision. What is your trait? Fearful. I am planning on getting a bigger ship, so. Oh, this is how I look at hers. Okay. Oh, this looks like the same, kind of the same ship in Markiplier. So we have a medical bay, kind of. Do we have a materials thing? This is the commander. Guns. Midships. How do I get up higher? You overhear two robed figures in a deep discussion. You ask for finally kind of those kind of drugs fueled sodomite parties just a version of what a real communion ought to be. One wearing a more elaborately decorated robe shrugs. As an ecclesiast, I must concur, although just between you and me, I do believe it can be a good. It can also be good for acolytes to test their limits. Once in a while, you must know where your limits are. You're striving to suppress them. From man's you looked, judging by his expression, you suspect you've heard something not meant for ears. Who might you be, and what is your business here? Yes. Has been looking for to learn about the church. I've heard this might be able to guide me. The man scoffs. Does this look like a public school to you? Even if it had an interest in teaching every ground of a submarine. Mariner who happens to waltz in, how would I know you're not some coalition spy or clown probing for information? Am I helping the church in some way? That would be in no way make you stand apart from the threat of memorable of the spiritually deployed submarines crews. Ground tasks for whomever with an regard for what kind of party they're supporting. What the church is interested in is what you strive for, how much you are willing to sacrifice for. We got a long way to go. What the hell? Let's try something. Okay. That you at very least have some kind of understanding of direction. Answer this. What is the second metamorphosis of the spirit? Man sniggers and shakes his head as I thought you might have some more learning to do on your own until you do. I don't have any eggs, too. I want to find eggs. Ow. Why is the guy in the wheelchair? My wheelchair, bitch. Now I have an assistant. I need people to go turn on the... Are these cultists? Oh, I can upgrade these guys. What's a reactor PDA? Okay, time to undock. Uh-oh. What are we being attacked by? Yeah, loser. How's our ammo doing? Oh, this guy's fixing these. Okay. Do I have an oxygen system on the ship? I probably should have. God fucking damn it, these lazy idiots. Welder rounds.
No! Oh my god! Kill it. What the fuck just hit the ship? What the fuck is that? Let me know what. This is where we... What is this guy? Uh-oh. We're screwed. Fuck. Okay, so I assume I shouldn't have the sonar on. You know, I'm just gonna trust the
we got past where we died before. Oh, I see. Our fucking... Holy shit. What are you firing at? Oh, he was firing at the fucking ice fire thing. What the fuck was that? It's a demon. What do you mean, where's all the building? What the fuck just happened? What is ramming the fucking ship? Did it die? Oh. Why do you need to fight opium? What the fuck is that thing? Down. Where is it? Oh, I killed it? Fucking repair the ship. Repair the ship. Get more water. go check out that body. Let me climb the fucking ladder. I'm not gonna check it out until the ship's up there, because I don't want to get mauled by some demon. Oh, it sunk. Oh my god, this thing is terrifying. Swim bladder. Hammerhead, where's... I'm trying to shove the blood back in there. No, I don't want to drink the fucking body. Okay, we killed the fucking hammerhead. Holy shit. I got an achievement for it too. That's how I know what it's called. Oh shit. We're bringing the body up with us. God damn it, bounced off of it. Holy fucking shit. I wonder what I wonder where I can sell this kind of stuff. Holy shit, we have 7,000 in the bank. Oh, it's one. I'm gonna go to bed after I buy some shit. Hey, we got a bunch of medical shit. believe you're curious to express interest in learning more about. Damn it. Where's the cultist man that wanted to talk? Okay, I'm gonna head to bed.